Time, time measures for minutes. Doing something else. Doing something else. Non-indecisive, in compelling and intrusive way. No, I don't want to be part of this time. Definitely not. Time and time again. Intrusive wise and something else better. And home only. Home. How do you feel about this home? I didn't feel good, man. Who are you, man? Meaner and meaner gets meaner and meaner and don't get. Yeah. More and more and more. Pictures and descriptions, SAT sounds, and forgetness at home. In all due honesty, what it is. In all due honesty, what it does. In all due honesty, what it says. In all due honesty, what it means to be with that person, In all due honesty, what it means to do a lot of stuff. What it means to a lot of stuff. In all due honesty, what it means to do something else. In all due honesty, what it means to do something else too. In all due honesty, what does it mean to be nothingness? In all due honesty, how do you consider nothing? In all due honesty, how do you consider something? In all due honesty, what's you? In all due honesty, what could I get? In all due honesty, do you think it kind of makes sense? In all due honesty, what do you agree with? In all due honesty, do you think we should think about it? Or do you think we should just think about all due honesty? In all due honesty, what do you think about you? Or do you think about me? Or do you think about someone else? In all due honesty, do you think of me? In all due honesty, how ugly am I? In all due honesty, can I be real with myself? In all due honesty, how real can I be with you? In all due honesty, how real am I inside? In all due honesty, do I like myself? In all due honesty, do I have the lies and guilty riddance of something else? In all due honesty, do you think life is without past? In all due honesty, do you think it is what it is? In all due honesty, do you think you should be negotiating something for yourself? In all due honesty, how am I doing with you? In all due honesty, what am I always doing with you? In all due honesty, do you think the choices are matters? In all due honesty, do you think I'm telling you the truth? In all due honesty, sir, do you think? In all due honesty, sir, what do you think I should think about? You know, sometimes you're turning to a lot of people in retention wise, and sometimes you're turning a lot of things, a lot of ways, and a lot of things in return, and things and so forth. Sometimes it's always an inaugurate of things. Sometimes it's really weird to find out that you cared. Sometimes you find out something else is truthful. But sometimes you have to tell the truth. Sometimes you have to tell me the truth. And sometimes you have to make me into who I am. And sometimes you do have to tell somebody the truth. Sometimes it is really, really dark. But sometimes it is really one of those profound things. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's always good, sometimes it's always body flexing. Sometimes it's truth, sometimes it's not truth. Sometimes it's really working out with yourself. Sometimes you're letting go. Letting go is a lot of things. Sometimes you have to let go of other things. Some things is not known. Sometimes you have to tell yourself the real truth, they're not you. Sometimes you have to tell that it's not you and it's what it is. Sometimes you have to explain to yourself how it works and how it don't work. Sometimes you have to be with that person forever and ever. Sometimes you have to write it in a dark way. Sometimes you have to write it in a little way. Sometimes you know how it works. Sometimes you don't know how it works. Sometimes you do know how everything works. Sometimes you don't know how you work. Sometimes it's a responsible way of responding back to a lot of people. Sometimes it's not responding back to a lot of people. Sometimes it's a second getting rid and things and the forth. And then sometimes it's something like always being real me and stuff. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it is you. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's always that person. Sometimes it's not that person. Sometimes it's always that person. Sometimes it's not that person. Sometimes it's him. Sometimes it could be confused. Sometimes you always wearing something else. Sometimes it could be that person doing something else too. Sometimes it could be something. Sometimes it can't be you. Sometimes it could be you. Sometimes it can't be you. Sometimes people go into jail. Sometimes people don't go in jail. Some people don't see it. Some people do see it. When people do see it, you can do it. When you do it, you have to become a man. And this is a time when things become wrong, and things you do pray for, and things you do return in a ways that you want, and so forth. It is not part of you, but it is you. Sometimes you think of something else. Sometimes you like to do righteous things. Sometimes you don't like to do righteous things. Sometimes you have to tell the truth. Sometimes you don't have to tell the truth. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. At times it's extreme. Sometimes you can't handle it. But when you know you can handle it, sometimes it's the truth and it's not the truth. Sometimes it is truth and sometimes it's not the truth. Sometimes it's the truth and sometimes it's never the truth. And sometimes it's never true. Sometimes it's truth. Sometimes it's not truth. Sometimes it's always truth. Sometimes it's nothingness. Sometimes there's always something else. Sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it's not right. Sometimes it's good, but sometimes I would say it's not has to be with you. Sometimes it's back and sometimes it's boring, you know. Sometimes it's back, but sometimes it could be you. What can you do? Sometimes it could. At times it can, but at times again, I guess. And times, but but sometimes it's not always you. Sometimes it's not you. I don't know. Sometimes it's different. Sometimes it can't be different. Sometimes it is different. Sometimes it can't be different. Sometimes it can't be different. Sometimes it's always different. Sometimes it's always there. Sometimes it can't be there. Sometimes it's something. Sometimes it's not something. Sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's you and comparable match. Sometimes it's not something else. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it falls. Sometimes it don't. When things do work, it's something you do for it. But sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's just you. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it could be you. Sometimes it can't be you. Sometimes it could be you. But other times it can't be you. Because sometimes it is always you. Sometimes it can't be you. Sometimes it's always something. Sometimes it turns into camera. Shit. Sometimes it's always. Sometimes it can't be. Sometimes it will be. Sometimes it comes with it. Sometimes it don't come with it. Sometimes it does come with it. Sometimes it don't come with it. Sometimes it has its effects. Sometimes it don't have its effects. Sometimes it does have its effects. Sometimes it don't have its effects. And it fixes. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it don't. Sometimes it grows. Sometimes it grows again. Eminently described. Eminently other way around played. Out spectrum awareness. Sometimes it's young, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's written, sometimes it's not written, sometimes it tones, sometimes it don't. But a lot of time it takes. But sometimes I take the risk. Sometimes it's already done, sometimes it's not done, sometimes presently now, sometimes it's present when I get it, sometimes not given. Sometimes it's telling truth, sometimes it's not telling truth. Sometimes it's always doing real things. Sometimes it's living in drawn pictures, sometimes there are other ways around. Sometimes it's telling other people the truth, sometimes it's not telling the truth, but sometimes it is telling the truth, but sometimes you're not telling the truth. Sometimes you're not real, sometimes you're not right. Sometimes you're telling the truth, sometimes you're not telling the truth. Sometimes you are real, sometimes you're not telling the truth. Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's not you. It's Jenny's thing. It's my Sometimes it's not, sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's the other way, sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's the other way, sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it comes in, sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it belongs into ways, sometimes it belongs to you as a person in ways. Ambivalent and joyous, unbiasedly and objectively not inclined. Sometimes it comes into you, sometimes it don't come to you. Sometimes it does come to you, but sometimes it don't come to you. Sometimes I'm not written, sometimes I'm not made for you. Sometimes I get angry, sometimes it comes to you.